Hello YouTube, Jared here, and today I wanted to have a little discussion with you about the PS5 versus the PS5 Pro and how Xbox can counter this. Now, I personally have a PS5 and I'm not like an Xbox supporter, but I will say I did have an Xbox One. I did play Halo, the first one, and right off the bat, I'm going to tell you I'm not planning on buying a PS5 Pro. My plan would be to get maybe a PS6 or a PS6 Pro because we have a dilemma and I want to talk to you about this problem. This is the major problem in gaming. And this is the problem right now. It's not a problem of the hardware, it's a problem of certain games. Games do not support, I can't even spell. I'm just going to rephrase this. Not all games, because some games do, like Fortnite does. Not all games support 120 FPS, or you could call this 120 gigahertz. I mean, HZ. With 4K, which is 2160p. And this is the dilemma with what we want as gamers. Let me just put what we want. As gamers, we want 120 FPS with great 4K graphics. Now, can the PS5 do this? No, it cannot do it. I'm not going to tell you what the PS5 can. No, let me just rephrase this. Can it do it with certain games, like Fortnite? Yes, it can. Can it do it with every game? No. And this is the problem in the games right now. Is certain games do not support certain things. And this is where I'm going to start talking about Xbox coming in. If I was Microsoft and I was Xbox, this would be the greatest opportunity for them to step in and solve this problem. But here's the thing. Even if Xbox can do this, even if they can, you can't force every game to run at this performance because some games are not programmed to run like a stallion. So, you would, if you supported this, you would have an elitist console, and then you would have hardly no developers, studio teams. They call them studios. Let's just call game studios. Because you would say, okay, if you can't make a game that's at 120 FPS at 4K, then you can just pack up your bag and we're not going to take your game. So it's not necessarily Sony's fault. But I will say this. The major fall of Sony in their PS5 is they have this copium. Now you guys know what copium is. I'm just going to rephrase this. It is masking it is Deceiving. Oh, shoot. I can just spell deceiving. Now, and this is also marketing. When they use these words. Now, these words, you guys are going to be familiar with them. Performance mode. And fidelity mode. Now, these words here, you should just see them as performance mode is 120 FPS at 1440p in some games. Fidelity mode, sometimes you can get it at 60 or 30 FPS at 4K. So do you see what the issue is? We want 120 FPS at 4K, but we cannot get it. The PS5 cannot do it. I think it is with certain games, I'm going to tell you. And what gamers want is they want every single game to run at 120 FPS with 4K graphics. And I think that there's been a misconceiving. It's not necessarily Sony's fault because certain game studios designed the game that they didn't build the game with the proper codes to run at 120 FPS. And I would say it is, the problem is with this, it's a server issue. It is, if you're getting that many frames, I'm not necessarily going to say it's a server issue because certain games like Fortnite, I don't think, they're in charge of. Sometimes I'm just talking about RAM, but I want to talk about HDMI cords, for example. Here is another thing that gamers get in trouble with. A lot of times they blame consoles or something and they don't even check their HDMI cable. Now, there's two main cables, HDMI 2.0. Now, this cable is going to give you 60 FPS at 4K. Sorry. Some of them can do 8K. It depends. 4K or 8K. But just look at that 60 FPS. That is the cap for this, okay? That is the cap. So if you want to go 120 FPS, and by the way, the PS5 has 2.0, 2.1, and PS5 Pro has 2.1. What we were hoping for was PS5 Pro to have maybe 2.2 on the back. But HDMI 2.1 is going to give you that 120 FPS. But here's the big issue. This will do the 8K and the 4K. But the PS5 cannot. PS5 and Pro and PS5 Pro cannot do this. And it is, let me rephrase this, for some games. Because Fortnite can do this. And this is becoming really funny because it is funny. because it's basically your game shopping. You need to find, you have to search for the games that can run it. So you need to find the right games that run 120 FPS with 4K. And you're gonna notice that if you run Fortnite and 120 FPS, if you look at the 60K version, the 60K FPS is gonna be slightly better looking. And that is because the PS5 is doing this marketing with the fidelity mode and the performance mode. And I wish that Xbox would just come out and there wouldn't be any modes. It would just show what you're getting. Like, don't put modes in the game. Like, just tell me what I'm getting. Like, am I getting 120 FPS? Am I getting 4K? But, getting 120 FPS with 4K graphics, which is 2160p, this is definitely going to require 2.0, 2.1 HDMI. So if your monitor does not support 2.1 HDMI, there is not even any point to getting a PS5 Pro. Now, I want to talk about who should get a PS5 Pro. If you do not own a PS5, if you do not own, I can't even spell. It's 5. Then should you get a dirt cheap PS5 Pro? Because people are going to be selling them. You could get a cheap PS5 or a PS5 Pro, an expensive PS5 Pro. And I want to take a little note. People always say, oh, it's $700. But did you know it comes with a controller, which is, in my country, the controller's around $100, like $90. So in reality, it's like $600 plus $100 controller. I can't even spell. That's another misconception everybody has. It's so expensive. It's so expensive. And they don't realize they're buying another controller. I wish that Sony would have an option not to have the controller in there, but of course they're going to have to put one in there. But yeah, that's another... I don't know what I'm ranting about, guys. But yeah, Xbox... The new Xbox should... They should promote the new Xbox... should advertise 120 FPS at 2160p with a lot of games that support this, because it's not just Sony's problem. Sony has some games that support this, but the problem is there's not a lot of them, and it's very small. For example, Black Ops 6. Black Ops 6 does support 120 FPS, but when you play the game, it looks like 11440p, which is, they call this 2K. 1440p, they call this 2K. It does not look good. This does not look good. it looks blurry. And in my opinion, it looks like 1080p. I'm not even joking you. You try it. You try this. If you put on and you have HDMI 2.0, 2.1, and you have a monitor, you got to make sure you have a monitor that supports it. This is the problem with gaming right now. There's so many things that you have to have all together. I can't even write, guys. I'm sorry. You have to have a monitor that supports the 2.1. If you don't, you're not going to get that 120 FPS, 120 hertz. The millisecond response time for 160 FPS is around, I would say it's around 8 to 12 milliseconds. Whereas 120 FPS is around 4 to 8. So it's gonna feel smoother on 120. Feels smoother, but there's a huge but. Graphics look like poop. Like shit. So this is the problem with gaming, guys. This is the problem with gaming. We want 120 FPS with 4K graphics, but we cannot get that in the PS5, the PS5 Pro, the old Xbox Series X, whatever it is. They can't do it. So this is what I'm saying. Like, if I was Microsoft, give us games that do this. We're in the stage of gaming where we're like in a transition mode. And pretty soon, the PS6 is going to come out, and guess what? 120 FPS 4K, that's probably going to be maybe the PS6's mark. I don't know. But, of course, 8K is coming around. I can see 8K going easy, but I mean, the PS5 does support 8K. It's just you're not getting the frames with it. You're sacrificing, right? So hopefully Microsoft can make, 4K and 120 FPS an easy thing, but that would be really hard. Anyways, you guys let me know if you have HDMI 2.0 or 2.1. Do you have HDMI 2.0 or 2.1? And do you prefer 60 or 120 FPS? And do you like PC or console? And what kind of monitor do you like? What is your favorite monitor? I don't want to try to... And, like, are you guys OLED or QLED? Oops. Or I'm a IPS or Neo. There's like a Neo QLED. You know, you guys just let me know. Um, yeah. So I just want to double. If you haven't learned anything from this video, I want you guys to just double check your cord too. By the way, the cord that came with your PS5 was an HDMI 2.1. So if you're using that, you're good. Some people think those are trash, and they might replace it with even more trashier one. But it came with a 2.1. And does your TV support 2.1? Because a lot of TVs, they just go for 2.0, and yeah, you could never game at 120 FPS on 2.0. Isn't that so sad? So don't be aware, guys. This is turning into a HDMI video versus a PS5 Pro. The good news is, guys, PS5 Pro has 2.1 and PS5 Pro has 2.1. So you're totally fine there. Everybody's laughing about the PS5 Pros like a magic eye. You can see some like special playing Red Dead Redemption. Um, my dad just liked the video. But anyway, guys, we were talking about that the Mac Mini, the M4. But anyway, guys, let me know. Um, what do you guys like better for gaming? What do you want for gaming? Personally, I'm using 60 FPS. Um, but yeah, I'm like forced to, right? Because I don't want to run 120. There's only certain games that can do 120, and that's the problem. Um, so yeah, I would just say Microsoft needs to step up and advertise more 120 games, FPS games, and they need to advertise quiet and smooth. And yeah. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna end this video, and I will talk to you later. Peace out.